You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Hey there, listeners and viewers. My name is Christos, and I'm excited to welcome you to the 8th episode of Let's Fly. This limited run series by BQN will recap each episode of Star Trek Discovery's final season. Every week, a panel of BQN hosts and Patreon subscribers will join our YouTube and Facebook live audiences to deep dive into each new episode after it airs. You can watch replays on both platforms, and audio podcasts will also be available. But wait, there's more. We want you to be part of the show. For as little as $1 a month, you can join us on a panel here as a BQN Network patron. As a patron, you can share insights, ask questions, and contribute to our lively discussions. So if you're ready to get more involved, become a patron today. For everyone else, we welcome your comments in the live chat displayed on the screen. And I'm not going to lie, this is my first time hosting a live podcast, so I apologize now, but I think we're going to be fine. Without further ado, I would like to introduce today's panel. We have Jonathan, JJ, Jim, and Peter. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi, hello, everyone.
Hello.
How's everyone doing today?
Doing great.
Doing good. Yeah, it's Friday, so
it's Friday. It's 5. Where is everybody? But where in the world is everybody? Just for San Diego, Florida,
Minnesota,
Peter,
New York. Yeah,
New York, and JJ.
I'm in New York.
I'm in Kentucky.
All right. I thought so. I wasn't sure if you were Tennessee or Kentucky, but I remember that now. All right. Let's start by getting our initial reactions to the episodes. I'm just going to kind of go round robin here. Jonathan, what'd you think of this week? Episode 8.
I loved it. I thought it was an interesting episode. It was fun. It was exciting. And it was funny in a perfectly classic Star Trek way.
JJ?
Yep, I also loved it. There was some excitement, some intense moments. It was pretty enjoyable. I definitely enjoyed it.
Peter?
I also liked it a lot. One of the better ones for me this season. It's a kind of harkens back to some of the classic Star Trek episodes that we've seen in the past. Sort of common themes, common styles. So yeah, overall liked it a lot.
Nice. And Jim?
I enjoyed it too. Like it gave us a great deep dive backstory into Burnham in a great way that wasn't over the top, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I liked the episode too as well. It was kind of like one of those ones that, oh wow, it's over already. Like that's usually how I can tell if I'm really liking an episode or not. Am I tempted to look away? Am I tempted by my phone? Or it ends and I'm like, oh wow, that was it. So I kind of hit all of that for me. And yeah, for me, it continues to be for a season that wasn't supposed to be the final season when they filmed it. Once again, there's just had that little sense of wrapping things up for some of our characters and that introspective way to kind of what you were saying, Jim. All right, so shall we talk through the plot? So basically, we're on the last clue here of the progenitors' scavenger hunt that they have us on here. And we knew we were heading for this library archive, for better word. Kind of liked how the episodes have kept on doing that. They have a story, they're all kind of clean cut, but then it tells you what's next, and the next episode picks up there. So although there's this throughput to the whole season, the episodes are definitely their own little adventures. But so then we get to the Badlands, and we meet. Did this gal ever give us her name? Actually,
Hydro.
Hydro. Okay, and she is of the same race as the president from the Undiscovered Country, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we remember the name of that race?
It was
The
never
Frozen?
mentioned on screen at the
Frozen,
time,
yeah.
but it is in memory of it.
Was-
They're called the Frosians.
It's pretty cool. I thought that was a pretty cool throwback. Also, the actress that was playing this. Well, first off, what did you guys think of her character in general, Jonathan?
I think she knocked this character out of the park. She did a really great job with it. It is a fun and enjoyable character from when you first see her come in and she's trying to talk about the history of the museum and like, well, we don't have time for this kind of thing. And they're immediately annoyed. But she then also can show her serious side when she's dealing with the Breen, and ultimately, like, you know, that one Breen's action results in no Breen having access to the archive going forward. So yeah, I think she did a really good job playing the different aspects of this character, but brings a lot of energy into it. And it was really cool to see this alien species in a way that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah. What do you think, JJ?
Yeah, I loved her character. She was I thought it was very elegant, like how she portrayed herself. It was funny. I thought the scene when the Breen started attacking, I thought that was kind of funny how she approached it, and then she ran into the room, and yeah, it was well done. I totally happy with that.
Yeah. Peter, did she remind you at all of Poe at all from, was it season 2?
Oh, Poe from Discovery. I'm from earlier Discovery. The Queen.
Yeah.
Queen.
Yeah, the Queen. That's who she reminded me of.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't made that connection before, but now that you mention it, I think she does have sort of common, like, a personality. The humorous. It was a combination of sort of being, humorous when needed, but also serious when needed as well. So I think in the beginning she didn't really know the Discovery crew, so she was kind of doing her standard, greeting type thing. But then once she worked with them more, I think she was kind of knew what was best approach to work with them. So, but yeah, I think Poe was like that. It's been a while since I recall, but I remember she was very helpful with Tilly in particular. So
yeah,
so she does have that, that type of personality, and and she was really, really good and helped bring some, help make the episode stand out.
Yeah, I thought she got the light. And what did you think, Jim?
I enjoyed her character. Like it was said, she knew she could be. The actress knew how to be lighthearted when necessary, and when the character needed to get deadly serious with when the Breen commander stupidly thought he could muscle his way in, she got down to business and revoked access. So it was a perfectly cast role.
Nice. I agree. I really enjoyed her character. Like I said, I had to stop and think for a minute. It's like, wait, is she the race from Star Trek 6, or is this the same race as Poe? That's why because I immediately thought of that actress.
I thought Klingon at first, but I figured out quickly that wasn't the case.
I don't know. Have we seen a Klingon in future Discovery, 32nd century Discovery?
No, that's why my mind went there at first.
Yeah. So what do we think about what's going on the Breen ship? Or, hey, Jonathan, you've seen the episode a few times. Why don't you recap some of the political shenanigans that are going on the Breen ship, and then let's talk about that for a little bit.
Well, so in this episode, we get to learn more about the Breen than in any other episode or anything previously. We get to see a Breen funeral and the fight for power. So the one of the things we learned about was the ritual Breen rhythmic pounding that they're all starting off with their pounding of the batons, and then the deceased is lying in state there with everyone around watching. And I thought it was interesting to see that like Maul had the right to be next to the Locke's body. As like the Breen culture. So we get to learn a lot about like the funeral rites and the traditions of the Breen through this context of Locke's funeral, that the Primarch tries to turn into his ascension, but is thwarted by Maul mentioning that, hey, I can bring back Locke using this technology. So we then see the fight for power, which happens later on at the end of the episode there, where we also, so we know that the archive contains Breen artifacts, and that when the Primarch threatens to fire on the archive, all the other Breen kind of have this sudden reaction of like, oh no, you're not about to like really go and destroy history, indicating that the Breen really do have a sense of history and a strong caring for that, as I guess is also evidenced through their hierarchical political system that we see.
It was really good. I thought this whole idea that Locke is the scion, and I don't know that we heard that term before today's episode. I know he was important, obviously, to the Primarch's ascension, but now we kind of found out that Locke was a lot more important than I think we first knew. JJ, what did you think of what was going on all this unfolding of Breen politics?
So it was interesting, right? The Primarch, I was a little confused, right? I'm still trying to get and understand the Breen, right? And I kind of like get this sense that there's like this honor, integrity similar to the Klingon culture, but then how the Primarch was behaving, and he was just trying to seize power and stuff that just didn't seem to quite fit in. But then it looked like Maul was, trying to work her way in by, catering to, the integrity of their Breen and everything. And so I was a little confused there, but I've only watched it once, so definitely need to watch it again. But it was interesting. I don't know how I feel about Maul killing the Primarch. I think it was good in that I think he was the bad guy, that worse than Maul, but I'm still concerned now because I think she's definitely smart enough that she could potentially get the progenitor tech.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree with what you said about Klingons. I got Klingon honor vibes out of Breen culture. The Klingons are all about their honor. And so are apparently the Breen. So that was starting to become, Primarch rules. Like Achilles' heel is that he was demonstrating that Breen honor and Breen culture and didn't really matter to him as much as his quest to become emperor was.
And I want to add one thing onto that is, so I'm forgetting the term that that is used, but when essentially they offer a like blood oath that to stop firing on the archive and let the people go survive, and then he reneges on that, and that's again showing that like he's betraying the Breen culture and makes it more formidable essentially for Maul to execute him in front of his own men and not then therefore face the consequences of it because he was not living up to those Breen traditions that we get to see fleshed out throughout this episode.
I like that because it literally looked like when he ordered the fire on the station, it looked like his crew wanted to literally revolt against him in that for that like 1 second there before they just started to follow the orders again because they were like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Yeah. I think they call that that oath is like a Turgun. And that was like the whole And I think Burnham was kind of counting on that. If she got him to swear to it, she kind of knew they'd be safe. And Peter, what do you think of all this stuff playing out on the Breen ship?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised on how the sort of how the direction on those scenes went towards the end, because I thought that the Primarch would sort of be there for the end, for the final battle. So I was surprised that Mark ended up doing that, and I think he's dead. So ended up killing him. So and then I was you mentioned about the sort of the other Breen kind of trying to, maybe not revolting, but just not following the orders of the Primarch. So I kind of like to, maybe next episode we'll learn a little bit more about that, because there was that one maybe a first officer or someone who kind of help Maul, I think, kind of at a key point. So I'm just curious sort of where, how the other members of the officers, or feels about the Primarch, because I think there were various points in which they didn't really want to follow his orders. So I think that part was interesting.
Yeah, there's a little bit of I mean, obviously Maul saw that as an opportunity to exploit it, but that Breen was also a little bit more open to change, the same way Locke was way back when he fell in love with Maul. So, like, is the Breen culture like ripe for like this evolution, or revolution? Maybe is the better word. There's people who are thinking differently, and they're being, their society forces them to be a certain way. I don't know if I'm saying that in a way that makes sense to everybody, but it seems like, I don't know. Or is this just like Primarch's quest for power blinding everything else that's important, and it's becoming apparent to his crew?
Yeah, we may get that a sign of that next episode, because if it sounds like Maul's, I guess, the leader now, it seems, which I actually found a little bit odd it happened so quickly, but so I wasn't crazy about that idea. But maybe how they'll treat her next episode might give a sign whether, how the rest of the Breen sees, whether they would follow her, whether they would revolt, will not. So we'll see.
Do you guys, let me ask you all, the four of you guys, do you think Maul is in charge, or do you think she just kind of got them all riled up, and that the guy that kind of helped her along is in charge? What do you guys think?
I think she just got them all riled up. And on a side note about that other guy, did anyone see the theory online that other guy might be like non in disguise undercover?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Maul is definitely in charge up until she can revive Locke, or is unable to revive Locke, at which point she is no longer in charge. But right now, she is most definitely in charge. As far as the lieutenant, who they say the person's name once, and I wish I wrote it down when I had the subtitle version.
I think it was Asira. Was it Asira?
Yes,
maybe?
it definitely started with an A. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To me, you hear that person speak a couple times. It sounded to me like David Ajala. When you hear him say, "Excuse me, Primarch," or something Primarch, like, it sounded to me like David Ajala. I don't think it's supposed to be anything related to that. I could be completely wrong, but I was like, went back the second and third time when I went through, I was like, let me replay that again and again. And I'm like, that really sounds like David Ajala to me. Maybe he was on set and they just used him, or maybe it's all in my head. As far as being an undercover person, I don't think that'll be the case. I think this is one of those things that Star Trek does really well, is that they give you a stereotype of the species, and then they show you the people who do not fit into that mold, showing like none of us are all exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And they do this throughout various seasons, and we're getting to see this, how Locke is different, and now apparently this lieutenant, and not apparently only this lieutenant, because they're not all so bloodthirsty that they are willing to give up their tradition, as we see in this episode.
That could be, and they've also proven to be adept at like getting fans to believe in one fan theory when it's actually something else.
Yeah, misdirects are definitely a thing in Star Trek. But yeah, I find it very interesting. I mean, politics and watching, the intrigue of it all work out is pretty cool. But I will agree that the whole thing, I mean, Maul took over a little too fast. That was my little thing. It's like, unless there's like, it's understood that the Primarch was just kind of on this road of losing the faith of his crew. But by the end of the episode, we had, Maul kind of like, here we go. This boom. She's, Norma Ray here in charge. But I guess it serves the purpose of getting us all hyped up and ready for, what's going to be the two-parter there at the, that's going to wrap this thing up. So that kind of covered what was going on the Breen side of things. On the other side of things, Discovery shows up just outside the Badlands. And of course, we get a nice look at the Badlands for the first time, really, since, I don't know, is it Caretaker or that two-part episode? Did we see the Badlands?
DS9, I want to say, is the last time
DS9,
DS9 it's the last time we see the Badlands.
Yeah. So it's been a good 20 plus.
Those are some badass looking Badlands. I have to say, I was really impressed when I saw this. I said, "Damn, the Badlands got an upgrade."
Yeah, and I love how Trek can go revisit this and give us kind of this Badlands as an Easter egg, but it's not necessarily fan servicey, right? Like, it's not like hurting anything, right? They're just showing us another part of our galaxy that we were familiar with, but it doesn't serve or unserve the plot in any way or make us feel like, oh, there you go again, showing us another thing from old Trek. It's just a nice nod to old Trek in a good way. Did we know that the Badlands had nice pockets in them? Like, you could just turn and suddenly be in this nice calm space?
Sort of. There's the episode where Worf is lost, and is it Ezri, I guess, at that point, that like goes out there and turns off the engines to flow and end up like where his ship is. So that gives us an idea that it's not everywhere in the Badlands is completely chaotic, that there are some pockets, but nothing, you never got a hint that it looked this nice or was this calm.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a planet in the Badlands and Deep Space Nine?
Yeah, I was going to say, there are entire star systems in the Badlands.
Okay.
I'll defer to the others on that.
Yeah. It's been a hot minute for me, but I just like that we were back in the Badlands. But, we get there. I did think the Badlands were a little bit more bumpy than I remembered them as far as what Discovery goes through to get there. Maybe it's a certain part is worse. I don't know.
Or it's been 900
Or it's
years.
the time. Yeah, it's been the passage of time.
I like that. It's 900 years has made the storm more volatile. But we get to the library here that moves around and get on board, and we see this beautiful there it is. I mean, this is we were talking a little bit before we started today, but this is actually the Fisher Library at the University of Toronto. So it's actually a real space that's never been they've never let a film crew in here before until Discovery. And I'd love to know the reason why they changed their mind on that. Maybe, they're Trekkies.
I thought it looked like the TVA, personally.
The who?
The TVA from Loki.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It reminded me a little of Hogwarts from the Harry Potter films. A little bit from that sort of that tone. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit of that vibe too.
Yeah.
So in my first watch through of this, I was convinced this was the AR wall. And I first thought man, they are really getting creative and on how they're using the AR wall. And then I saw the Ready Room episode and saw that this is the Thomas Fisher rare book library. And so on my second watch through, I was definitely paying much more attention to the background, and what a beautiful place. I believe it's only about 4 or 5 layers. So obviously, there's some visual effects that they're using to pull this off. But this area that we see that's floating, that is actually, I think, like the second floor. That's not a first floor. It does have a kind of like floating cutout. Amazing use of space. And what they did with the lighting to transform this place and then add to the effect of Michael going through this, world that's sort of shutting down by turning off the lights was well done. And then realizing it was a library, I went back and I had to rewatch the scene where she's pouring sand because I was freaking out over like, how did they allow them to pour sand inside a rare book library? Like, did they lose their minds? And so I was watching that frame by frame, and it appeared to me, I could be wrong, that they did actually like layer a whole thing of carpet. So I believe that the sand is being poured on like their own carpet instead of on the floor, because everything in this place also looks red. And if you notice, that's the one scene that the ground is not red.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch that for that. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. A little side story for me, like how bougie some of these places can be and what their requirements can be. I went and saw at the Coliseum in Las Vegas, where they famously built that big theater for Celine Dion. Now that Adele performs in there now and everything, but it was way back when it was just Celine Dion's theater. And for a 1-week deal, Gloria Estefan was there, and we were there on the final night of the Gloria Estefan concert. And she's like, "Have fun, stomp on the carpet, because by contract we have to replace the whole carpet in this place as part of our being here for just 1 week." So I'm like, reminds me of what you're talking about there, Jonathan, that maybe it was like, yeah, well, you got to replace the carpet anyway, since you were here for a week, or we're going to lay down our another set of carpet so that, you don't mess it up. So we're in the library and we get to the book. And so they split up Book and Burnham to go have their own 2 little adventures. So let's first go talk about a little bit about what happens with Book. I mean, it's a little quick scene there with him, but JJ, what do you think of that little the Quajon artifact that was given to him as one of the few surviving peoples of his race?
Yeah, honestly, being in the moment in that show and watching that scene, it did invoke a little bit of emotion, right? Like his entire planet's gone and he's got this little clipping. It's like such a huge monumental statement there. Definitely brought out some emotions for me. Feeling, bad for him and hoping that, something. I love the fact that she said that she could take it with him, right? She didn't have to leave it there. So yeah, very emotionally involved there.
Yeah. Peter, what did you think?
The same reaction as JJ. I like how they call back to past seasons on what happened, because that was such a big part of last season. So kind of almost like bring his character kind of starting to a little bit more like accepting what happened more. And now that he has a reminder of home, I think that's, probably one of his, will be one of his sort of most, cherished possessions. And it was also with Hyrel, also when she offered to give it to him and have him say, all you have to do is just tell me, come back later and tell me what you did with it, or something like that. That was, a sort of very generous offer that she did. And it may end up being like almost like a, if this type of thing might be representative of stuff that they've done before. So if this type of situation has happened before, they could kind of like be like an archive, be a historical archive and have all these different things across the galaxy. So yeah.
So Jim, do you think it's just a memento, or do you think something's going to come of that?
I've been going back and forth on trying to figure that out. I'm still deciding. It could go either way, in my opinion. Like, I think it could be just a memento. I also think they could try and revive Quajan. I just don't know.
Yeah. What do you think, Jonathan?
I think there's a hinting that this is going to be used to rebuild Quajan in some sort of a way. They specifically refer to this as the Quajan world root.
Yeah.
And if they get the progenitor's technology and they talk about being able to create life, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to revive some of this. And we've learned that the Quajan life and spirit and memories can be held in their tree. So I think this is like the root of one of those trees. So I wouldn't be surprised to find out if there's some sort of way that before this show's over, Quajan gets revived.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, and whether there's going to be a new Quajan somewhere, or something like that, or a Quajan area. I was that made me kind of excited. I have not been the biggest fan of Book, but I won't lie, that scene made me tear up. So there was some pretty strong emotion there. You could really feel the connection to that. Like, oh, that could make all the difference in starting his world all over again, or a new version of it. Well, meanwhile, in the other room, Burnham gets the Beta Z manuscript of the Labyrinth of the Mind. Is that what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And opens the book and pushes a little button that I don't know how anyone knew that was a button, but it's a button. And has a very, very, very Jean-Luc Picard in what's the episode? The one that we all know so
Inner
well.
Light.
The
Inner Light.
Yeah.
Yes, we have Burnham's Inner Light experience. Peter, what'd you think of the first, how that all gets started there, and what Burnham starts to go, that road she starts to go down?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I was like sort of looking at the screen. I said, oh, I think I've seen that one before. I think, the Inner Light, so I definitely connected to it. And it's actually one of, like many fans, I think it's, one of my favorite TNG episodes. So I think kind of knowing that, a little bit of a background and thinking it may be her version of what TNG did, I was definitely looking forward to sort of what would happen for the for the rest of the 45 minutes or so. So I mean it's a bit of a Star Trek common type of episode of someone who like internally they kind of live, like the Inner Light is one of the best examples, but I think there's other other episodes like that. I think Janeway had one, I think Coda or something like that. And so that type of episode I enjoy, because you kind of learn a little bit more about the character, their motivations or their background history, or what led them to where they are now, or or what it sort of teaches them some type of lesson or some type, so that type of Star Trek story is a, I enjoyed those types. So this is we were saying in over the last 8 weeks, each episode sort of, it's almost like you have a time travel story, you have a diplomacy story, it's like you have it kind of covers a lot of the common popular Star Trek themes, and this episode has that type of introspection, or going on a journey, or I think they call it a mindscape, or something like going on that internal journey and learning something, and she gets to learn something very important by the end. So yeah, I think that was very well done. Probably my favorite aspect of this story.
What about you, Jim? What do you think of the setup there, and how we get Burnham to go down this last challenge?
I couldn't have said it any better than how Peter just put it.
Awesome. Any comments, Jonathan?
Well, so I do want to point out one thing. It's interesting you guys made the allusion to Inner Light, because there was something else that I picked up on before we see even inside the archive. There's a little like flashing signal beacon that is outside, and it looks very, very, very similar to the satellite in Inner Light. Because when I first saw it immediately, I'm like, oh, I think that's supposed to be an Easter egg for us. And I believe it was, because as we see later on, Michael Burnham goes through this type of experience. I'm going to agree with everything that Peter said. What makes, I think, these types of episodes so great is it allows them to be a little bit more playful because it's inside their head, right? They're not inside a real world. So the laws of physics or the rules or whatever it is that they want to do going through the story, it allows them to be a little bit more playful. So like in this case, it's taken to the next level of, oh, hey, if you don't solve this in time, like you're going to die, and your brain or mind or the puzzle is shutting down as you go through this, which was a similar thing in the Deep Space Nine episode where Bashir and O'Brien go inside the Section 31 guy's head, trying to get the cure for the disease that was affecting the founders.
Yeah. That's such a good episode. That's kind of leading up toward the end there. I definitely got, first off, yes, I thought you were right. The satellite reminded me of the Inner Light on first, like I said, watching it. It's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of Inner Light. I didn't even put it together that later on I thought about Inner Light again. But what really gave me Inner Light vibes was Culber leaned over, I almost said Picard, over Burnham. And he's got his tricorder open. It reminded me so much of Crusher with Picard on the floor of the bridge and Crusher and the whole medical team down there. Crusher telling Will that she can't breaking the connection could be, detrimental to him. Same thing. We can't interfere is what's being said. So there is definitely a lot of parallels in the scene, right down to physically how the scene was played out. So, so Michael wakes up inside the book, I guess you can call it. And she's met by Book again, wearing these archivist robes, and it's not really Book, but it's it's basically the voice in her head kind of guiding her through this. And meanwhile, Michael basically starts going through this test of solving it. And what we find out pretty early on is that there are life-threatening consequences to her not succeeding. So once again, it's not the first time it's even popped up this season that someone's been in like mortal danger. But so what do we think about like Burnham trying to go, because they don't tell her what the challenge is, and they're just like, you've got to figure it out. So what do we think of this journey that she goes on here to kind of unravel what the challenge is and try to solve it? Jonathan.
So I think this is probably the most cryptic of clues that they've received so far. Or at least when she gets inside, because like you said, it's not clear what she's supposed to do. She believes she comes up with the solution multiple times, but that's never it. And sorry, I was just reading the comment there. And yeah, so what is there to say about this? I'm going to come back to me.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, do you have something you wanted to add on this one?
Just that I thought Burnham, I thought it was brilliant. Burnham coming up with what she, like you said, thought was the decision. Basically, several false flags was quite ingenious, in my opinion. Like thinking she's won, then finding out she still has a long, long way to go.
Yeah. Well, it starts off with it starts off with the book, right? She thinks there's clues in the history books, right? So she starts asking for all the books from the Dominion War era scientists, right? And starts going through that. That was her first attempt at, I'm going to solve this and figure it out, right? And then that after she kind of got through all those books, they kind of tell her, like, yeah, no, never mind. That's you're not even warm. They would think that David Ajala's character kind of being funny is actually adding some comic relief to the stakes that are going on in there.
Yeah. I think that was actually, that was kind of like a little bit of different version of a different book that we're used to. So it was a nice sort of variation book because he did add, comic relief and just a little humor to her. I mean, she was, Michael was getting really anxious once she realized the stakes, but he was kind of brought some levity to it. And there was one scene with David, something that he's not so much said, but did. And I think it was all the way at the very end when he was playing around with the flashlight, not the flashlight, the spotlight of one of the lamps. And then when Michael, I think it was when he wanted to tell Michael that she was able to figure it out, when he kind of just, shone the light onto her, and then we kind of like transitioned. So it was just a nice, way of him, bringing another more very different version of the character. And I did want to mention, actually, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to the card catalog because there was a quick scene in the beginning of the journey, I think, in which there was a shot of these of like the card catalog with the drawers, and I just remembered that since I used, way back when I went to the college library, and they actually had card catalogs in there. So we don't really see that much anymore. Everything's online, but it was a nice little shout out to the old tech.
Yeah. JJ, what do you think of everything so far up in Burnham's head?
So this was actually my least favorite section of the episode. So it didn't land very well for me, and the library was beautiful. The scene was very well done. I really enjoyed Book in a dress, and he was acting a little effeminate in that dress. So it was entertaining. There was value there. I thought that Burnham was brilliant with trying to solve the clues, but there were some parts of as she's struggling to try to find herself and solve this puzzle, right, that felt a little forced. It felt a little, not real. Like I didn't buy it. It wasn't feeling the emotional connection with her during that scene. But it, I don't know. That maybe it was just me. Maybe I need to, like I said, I've only watched it once. Maybe a second watch through will give me a second opinion about it. But I had a little bit of difficulty connecting with her as she was trying to, solve the problem. And when she did finally figure out the problem, it just, and her shock on the face, I don't know, it just didn't feel real.
Yeah.
So I know what I wanted to say now, despite flubbing earlier. So there's the multiple challenges that we see come through, but Book's almost Vulcan-like character does kind of try to hint her early on when he says to her, well, what if you fail? Have you thought about what would happen if you fail? She just immediately dismisses it as no. So the first one is she believes there's a book somewhere in this library that she needs to find, and then she's looking in history and realizes it's not that. Then she realizes oh, this place is itself a labyrinth and I need to figure out how to get out. And she does that, she believes, just in time, only to end up back in the same room. And then that's where she starts, throwing everything against the wall and starts going in deeper and having to deal with her fear, which she, tried to avoid earlier on of not succeeding, and really it being a challenge and testament of dealing with oneself, right? Your biggest challenge and your biggest foes are yourself. And this is one of the things that Star Trek tries to tell us over and over again, because we all want to say, well, it's other people, right, that's holding us back, or it's other people that will help us get ahead. But it's really ourselves that is going to be whether or not we move forward or backward or stay in the same place.
Yeah, we went from the books to the maze and the sand and all that stuff, only to like you said, get there to that final thing where we learn out it's about her and about her feelings and about her being the test was supposed to be, is she a good person or not, and and can she recognize fear and self-doubt and guilt and those things that most people have that would make them second guess themselves and whatnot. And this is where I was saying earlier, I feel like we get this it's 360 view of Burnham, where we're suddenly this is at the very end of the 5th season, we're kind of getting this, like, narrative on who Burnham is, and having her realize everything she's been through, and her whole life has been this. And this is kind of like this major turning point to have this, and she says, I'm working on it. But I mean, it just makes me think of her whole journey through 5 seasons of Discovery. So did everyone did we like that? That this is what it turned out to be, or is this just more disco being disco? Or did we like this? I know JJ had a little bit of reservations about the whole thing, but basically she gets by coming to her conclusion, she gets to that's the answer to the puzzle. So do we buy this challenge, or other than JJ having a little problems with it? Jonathan?
I think having to face your fears is a common element that we see in Star Trek. So for me, it was classic Trek. I mean, whether it be the fear episode in Voyager, or I how do I want to say this? The getting to the root of the things that you don't want to talk about, to the things you don't want to admit about yourself, is classic Trek to me, in that it tries to get us to go in that area where other TV shows won't do it. And if they try to do it, they don't do it in a way that's entertaining. And Star Trek is one of the few shows that have been able to do it in a way that it's provocative and entertaining.
Great. Peter, any thoughts on this one?
I just want to add a little bit about, in a way, the scenes was reminded me of the one from the Time Bug, when it was with Burnham, with Michael and Book, in the past. So it was another block to add to the sort of the relationship of what Michael is thinking about, evaluating her relationship with Book. So we talked a little bit about this, I think, over the last couple of weeks. But I think there was a couple of scenes, or a couple of looks or glances, or a few words that Michael said during her journey, in which led me to think that, they may get together, because I think she was sort of talking about regrets and talking about things that she should have done that she didn't do, and vice versa, and so kind of trying to almost do make things right what went wrong, so yeah. So I think there was a little bit of that here, and so it kind of adds to that narrative that each episode kind of touches on for a minute or so, or half a minute, but it talks about sort of maybe their relationship might resume by the end. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jim, anything you want to add on this one?
Yeah, I got nothing. Everything I would have thought of has already been said.
So what did you think? So Jim, we'll stick with you here. What did you think of Rayner in this episode? He's kind of just floating around on the peripheral, but he's there. What did you think of his role in contributing to this episode?
He had actually one of the best lines I thought in the entire episode, when it's the fight scene between, when you're seeing the point of view fight scene of the brain after they've boarded. When you hear Rayner said, "Take that," I think it was "Take that, you gelatinous leaf," or something like that. I thought that was the best line.
Yeah, I like that too. That was an interesting way with the Breener watching that on their ship, right? We're seeing it through the helmets, and that was an interesting way to see some of the battle footage. I thought that from a director point of view, from the that was done pretty well. All right, so basically we get back to the ship just in time, right? And we've got this, to kind of wrap things up as the whole episode comes to a head here. Our stories come back together, and we've got this stare down between the Breen and Discovery. What do you think of Burnham's ultimate decision to?
Oh, you didn't briefly talk about how they devised the tactic to break the attack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's that little side plot going on there with the shield tunnel. That tunnel they're trying to burrow through the shields there, and then we have
Not to, men- not to
Reno
mention
and
we also got
Adira.
not to mention we also got to see Reese's own command style as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a second about talking about that. So we had Reese in command, and then we had our little engineering crew working very well together again. So what do we think? So Jim, you brought it up, so you hit it first.
I loved it. It was other than Rayner's line, which I already mentioned. I thought that was like one of the best parts of the episode. Like finally, finally, I think we get to see a secondary bridge character developing his own command style. I think the only other time I could remember seeing anything like that was with Arium several seasons back.
Yeah. Well, I think we get to see that because we've removed Saru from the situation, right? He's not on the ship anymore. Normally it would have been Saru sitting on the bridge while Burnham was off doing whatever. JJ, what do you think of all this? Reese and then our engineering team.
I love the engineering. Anything with Jet, she's just funny. I love it when she calls out their little nuances and how they were doing it. Again, they were talking simultaneously. It was totally enjoyable. Yeah.
Jonathan, any thoughts on this? We're talking about the.
Just like JJ said, anytime you get Jet Reno, it's going to be a great scene. Just the way that Tig Notaro is able to deliver these lines and in such a deadpan way is what makes it so hilarious. But also is able to, we see now 2 episodes in a row do these little type of Easter egg things for us. So in last week's episode, we got the 7 of Limes. In this one, we got Hysperians really know how to party. Hysperians we know from Lower Decks. Lieutenant Billups is from there. So I thought that was a great little line. And then, Reno says, like, I live to serve, which is just great coming from Reno. So I was very happy to see her in here. I'm hoping we'll get to see her in the next 2 episodes as well, since we've only got 2 left.
Yeah, we do. Peter, any thoughts on our get-togethers here at the end, and or even the technology at that Breen display to be able to drill through the shields?
Yeah, a couple of quick things. I want to echo Jim with Jen Reese. So these are the scenes with Reese was actually the types of scenes I wish that the show could have done, earlier in the run, because we, and like you said, between Saru and Lorca and Michael, there was probably enough, command officers there, but this would have been nice to have it. But it was really great that he was able to, to do that. I think with the tunneling, I actually got like a little bit of a flashback to Generations, the movie in which, and I only saw the episode 1, so I have to kind of redo it. But when I remember when the Duras sisters was kind of like got the shield frequency of the Enterprise D and kind of, just like phaser through the shield's harmonics. So so I have to kind of like revisit, but when that whole sequence happened, I was just thinking of that sequence from the old movie, that older movie. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting point. I actually got the Generation vibes too when they were talking about the shield frequencies, and then like just kind of a different way of coming at trying to figure out the shield frequency other than just stealing it by Geordi's visor. Yeah. They're actually trying to use technology to determine the shield frequency.
Yeah. So it was good, but it was nice to see the engineering team again. Because like you said, the last couple of episodes they've been working together. Continuing the teamwork.
Slight loophole though there. Once they realized that was happening, couldn't they just start to modulate their shield frequencies at random, and then they'll never figure it out. Just like we would do with the Borg, modulate shield frequencies. And sorry, sometimes we're just all too big a nerd, right? We just like we know how to get out of this. We're all qualified to be captains. You guys realize that, right? We've seen enough. All right. So anybody else? Did we all get through? Everyone got to talk a little bit about Reese and engineering crew.
I just add one thing.
Yeah.
You know, when we got to see Reese on the bridge, it reminded me that we don't see Detmer and Oo, who are still taking the ISS to wherever this, you know, storage facility. And I'm thinking, like, the last time there was a mission that lasted this long, Voyager got stranded in the Delta Quadrant. So.
I really hope we haven't seen the last of them. I mean, there's only 2 episodes left.
I'm hoping one of the reshoots involved bringing them back for the finale.
Yeah, it's not even a reshoot; it's an epilogue. So yeah, I hope that means they didn't change the end. Apparently, they just added this extra piece to the end. But I mean, we'll know. I mean, 2 weeks from today, we'll be sitting around talking about the end. You guys realize that? That's kind of nuts. It'll be done in 2 weeks. We'll have seen the end. So, all right, so let's get to the end of how this episode kind of comes to be. Burnham comes out of it. They get back over to Discovery. By the way, I love how in the Badlands, nothing works, but the transporters still work, even though the transporters are the first thing not to work normally. But they do get everyone back over to Disco, and it's kind of a showdown with the Breen, who are ready to take out the. As we were talking about earlier, the Breen were ready to take out the archive, and Burnham plays some poker here, basically. Let's see, Jonathan, why don't you start us in with this final little showdown here?
Well, so Burnham does what Burnham does best, in essentially setting the person up against their own culture or against themselves. So in this case, she uses the Turgun to essentially guarantee the safety of the archive, which is, her semi-immediate concern. Obviously, the bigger concern is them not getting the weapon, but right away, immediately needing to save all the people on that who are working on the archive, as well as all the materials on it. And so comes up with this sort of situation like, okay, we will give you the clue, and you can go ahead and have it, knowing that they're then setting up this other type of plan, which I thought was pretty clever, is waiting to the last moment when your shields are really low, making it look like essentially you were destroyed, and then doing a black alert out of there immediately. Because I was thinking well, jump already, jump. And then I'm realizing, they're waiting for it to be more feasible looking, as if the ship has been destroyed. On the other hand, that does end up resulting in them not jumping exactly where they want to be. So they have, in one sense, an advantage that the Breen believe that they're dead. And so that they're no longer going to be out there looking for the progenitors' technology, but they know where it is. They're about 20 light years away now. And as a result of that maneuver, allowed Maul to end up killing the Primarch, because the Primarch once again was not going to keep up to Breen values by reneging on the Turgun. That sounded really weird to say out loud.
Yeah, reneging on the Turgon. No. JJ, what do you think of that? Burnham's little solution.
So I wonder how she knows everything, right? Because the Breen are supposed to be a mystery, right? And she just pulls this ritual out of her hat, and it's just how do you know all this stuff, right? So sometimes it's a little bit too easy for her, I think. So that was a little hard for me to swallow in that particular moment. But I did enjoy that she took a page out of Raynor's book. Don't turn your back on a Breen, and she had that foresight to plan ahead to do. But the part she didn't have a foresight on is that the Primarch was going to destroy the library too. But thankfully, Maul that's where I see a twist in Maul, is she was telling them, don't destroy Discovery, don't destroy, the library, right? So there's a change in Maul that we're starting to see. I'm wondering how that's going to go. But yeah, it's very exciting, intense scene, but still, I don't know how Burnham has all the answers.
Right. She does always have the answers, but it was a good one. I think this one made sense, though. Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of generally enjoyed it. It was trying to, I think, waiting to the end in order to escape, to try to simulate that they were destroyed. I think was smart on her side. I think the mall, I just wanted to, one thing I noticed is in a way her character kind of kept on going back and forth over so we sort of she was kind of badder or more of evil before, and then she kind of had good scenes in which she was trying to defend defend the library and trying to stand down the Primarch, but then at the very end, it seems that she kind of taking control of the Breen, that group of Breen. So I'm just not sure sort of how, but it's just interesting her character, I guess, depending on the situation or depending on maybe outside circumstances, it kind of goes back and forth a little bit. So I guess we'll see what happens where she kind of eventually lands by the end of the season.
Yeah. And Jim, what did you think of Burnham? Kind of, I mean, she fooled them, but then didn't completely fool them because there was some things she didn't anticipate there. But in the end, it sort of worked out.
I think it was a typical Michael Burnham playing it by ear type of plan. And as for the mall thing, I think throughout the episode she kind of realized, crap, I might slightly be in over my head here on this one with this crazy dude being in charge.
Yeah. Yeah, when they jump, you see Discovery kind of badly damaged and orders the entire crew on damage control. And they have about 5 hours to get ready to go again because they figure a 6-hour advantage on the Breen. And Burnham knows something that the Breen doesn't know, apparently. We don't know what that is, but that was something that it was not. We knew there was something said, but we don't know what it was.
And she also wasn't and she also was visibly not sure that Maul couldn't figure it out, couldn't possibly figure it out.
Yeah. So that kind of wrapped up our episode, other than like, hey, stakes are high. I'm guessing they're too far to call the Federation for more help. That's probably another thing. I'm just guessing. I'm also wondering, like, could they take one of their crazy shuttle? Oh, well, they dumped everything out of the shuttle bay, didn't they? Do they have any shuttlecraft, you guys think?
They probably
they emptied everything in the shuttle bay to create the illusion, or that they were destroyed. So maybe they don't have any shuttle now. I don't know. Because I was thinking, why wouldn't they just take one of their shuttles and warp over to the planet and get going? But all right, so we're here at the end. 2 more episodes to go. What do we think will happen? And what do we not want to happen, I guess, is probably the other way we've asked this question in the past. So I'll go with Jim and work back away around the other way. So Jim, what do you we're here at the end, final battle, final showdown, 2-part finale. What do you want to see happen? Or what do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be a final showdown between Burnham and Maul. What I don't want to see happen is have the old Michael Burnham talks her down thing. I hope it's just Maul comes to her. Maul has her. I'll just say it, has her kind of come to Jesus moment.
Peter, what do you think? What's coming?
I still think Locke will be back. So I think he'll get somehow revived, maybe with the progenitor's tech. So I think he'll be back. I think originally I thought it would be the Primarch versus Michael. I don't think that's happening now. So I think it'll probably be Maul versus Michael. But I think she'll have some type of redemption scene at the end. So it'll kind of get resolved that way. I hope we haven't, back to Starfleet, back at Starfleet. I think I'd like to, maybe it'll be part of the ending, with, Saru and Tarina and Vance, and kind of having, because we didn't see, I don't think we saw them in this episode. I think we saw some of them in last episode, but kind of I don't know, but I don't know. It's hard to. It may be harder because just the momentum to building up for the last two episodes, it might end up taking more place, where Discovery is versus where, the Federation HQ is. But
Yeah.
but I always enjoy those scenes, back over there. So maybe we'll see them at the epilogue at the very least. But hopefully they could be involved in some way, helping Discovery with with the challenges that I'm going to have over the next two episodes. Yeah.
JJ, what's going to happen?
There's a few things that I'm like, I want to see. Like, I definitely want to see the Saru and Tarina wedding. Like, that's like a priority for me. I don't know how I feel about Maul and Locke. I think Locke's going to come back, but then, I don't know. We'll see. And then the one thing that I've been questioning, because this entire time, like every episode, they've been referencing some sort of spirituality, and I just want to see where they're going to take that, and I want to see what life lessons that they continue to teach. What moral we're going to walk away from this season.
Yep. And Jonathan.
I definitely want to see the wedding. I really looking forward to that. We've never seen a Federation wedding at this level, high status, like a president of a planet and another ambassador. So this could be a really cool and special thing, as well as what other type of rituals get worked in, because we haven't seen anything about Kelpian weddings or those types of rituals. We know about Vulcan weddings, so. We got that aspect. I'll say it, and then people are gonna hate me for this, but I want Maul to die. Maul needs to die. Locke can come back or stay dead. I can go either way with it. But if Locke comes back, then it needs to be that Locke takes over, as the head of the Breen Imperium, and like a new Breen, more peaceful Imperium that's not all about conquering and whatever. Because like the thing that's a little odd with the Breen is that they refer to them constantly as like bloodthirsty and everything, but we do know that they trade, because that's how Maul gets involved to begin with, right? They're buying dilithium from Maul, which is again why I think huge mistake on the Primarchs in the last episode to not have just taken that dilithium buyout, because clearly they need dilithium. They're buying it, so this would have been a great gift for them. And what else do I want? So I don't think I want Quajon to be recreated. I think that would be a weird thing and problematic. I'm hoping this ends with them destroying the Progenitor's tech, right? There's no need for them to keep this around, and it's very dangerous. So that's kind of where I'm hoping that go. And I hope they don't push it to the point where like Michael ends up pregnant. I hope they don't go down that route, because there's been like a hinting or two that maybe they go down that way, but I don't want that to be how this ends.
Yeah. I think for me, the most important thing is I want to see this wedding. It's funny that's what I'm like. I want to see this wedding. Not like the resolution to the season here. I want Maul to die too. I really, really, it just doesn't make any sense that like the whole idea that she took the Breen over so fast. I'm right there with that way of interpreting events, and so I'm just kind of over her. Locke, he can come back or stay dead, same thing. But my prediction is kind of along the lines. I think they're going to somehow, the Breen are going to rise up. They're going to get rid of this dictatorship that they're in, emperor system, whatever you want to call it. And I think that they're going to, I'm not going to say they're not going to join the Federation. It'll be too soon for that. But I think they're going to get on friendlier terms with the Federation as whatever shakes down. And I'm still thinking what I've said all season, that I don't think the Progenitor's weapon is going to make it out. It's going to have to be destroyed. I think someone here, when we were on last week, did someone mention it? Maybe it goes into the Infinity Room to be kept in there forever. Or maybe I heard that on another podcast. It's going somewhere. I think it's going to be hidden again. It's not going to be either hidden or destroyed. Anyways. All right. Is there anything anybody wants to add about today's or this week's episode, or anything else coming? Any other predictions? Oh, I got it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. This has been a really great, hour and 10-minute discussion of Labyrinth. It was amazing. I want to thank the live audience. You guys were great. I love the participation. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was a little bit behind on sharing some of the chat messages, but I think I got most of them in. So remember, if you want to be on the panel with us, you can do so by spending $1 and becoming a BQN Network patron, and head over to patreon.com/BQN and sign up now. We're gonna have one more message coming in here, guys. I love this one. Very, very DS9. We'll see you guys back next Friday. Next Friday for another episode of Let's Fly. Until then, let's make sure we all live lifelong and prosper. And thank you again, everyone.